Legends of Lore. All right, well, welcome to the Legends of Lore broadcast. This is our take on Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 10.
Yeah, The Last Generation.
The Last Generation, and oh boy, does it live up to that title.
Oh, most definitely.
All right, so what'd you think about the episode? This is our final episode of the season, supposedly the final episode of the series. Did it live up to your expectations?
It did. I think it definitely delivered. Because they had the bait and switch with the villains and stuff like that, and then, finally last episode we found out it was the Borg.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
The dramatic, and they kind of had swerved away from that and leading us to believe it would be a little bit more of a supernatural type of threat. At least I got that impression. But no, it was the Borg, which which I gotta hand it to them for the good, diversions and red herrings and such. I think throwing the changelings in there really muddied the waters.
Yeah, but it makes sense that it would be the Borg because it was Picard, and the Borg had been so much of, Picard's story arc.
Absolutely. And I think that, the fact that was the obvious choice is probably why they had to make the season the way that it was, which only brought the Borg in at the very end.
Right.
It almost had pulled it so far away from the Borg that you weren't thinking Borg. But let's go ahead and dive on into The Last Generation.
Okay.
I feel like one of the first scenes you had Anton Chekhov, the president of Earth, talking.
Yeah, son of Pavel.
Yeah.
Anton, yeah.
Yep. And, originally when I heard Anton, I thought Church of Satan, Anton LaVey. That's just where my mind goes. But no, apparently this was a reference to
Anton Yelchin, who played Chekhov in the movie.
Yes.
The Kelvin verse.
Yeah, the late.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Well, we see that Soul Station is still standing tall at the beginning of the episode. Like, when you see that thing, you don't think loaded to the brim with firepower, but it's defending itself against the entire fleet, so it must really be a very well fortified space station.
That space station must be like freaking awesome because they were able to go back, get the Enterprise D, and come back, and it's held off the entire fleet.
Yeah, that's one hell of a space station.
Yeah.
And we find that there's a transwarp conduit, that's hidden inside the gas giant of Jupiter.
Right, and the Eye of Jupiter, that was, pretty special.
Yeah, definitely. Now, of course, we find that Jackie Boy is the source himself of the Borg signal.
Yeah, he's the transmitter.
Right, what... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's kind of interesting. Because he's been transmitting, we saw him transmit on the Titan.
Right.
So I guess, he's broadcasting.
Yeah, and call me, this is a very big nitpick gripe, which, but it just kind of takes me out of a little bit, the massiveness of the scale of this conflict, and just to have one single person be just the MacGuffin, end all be all, whatever. Just it kind of strikes me as a little bit of like, lazy storytelling, but who am I to judge? I'm not saying I have a better idea, but it just takes me out of it a little bit. That the epicness and grandness of this adventure is distilled down to one person controlling it all, basically.
He's Vox, son of Locutus.
Okay.
So.
Fair enough. Okay, so one other thing I was thinking, I was a little confused about the whole nature of the Borg signal, like what they're doing. Like, so it's Jack who's sitting there coordinating the whole fleet to start flight that they just took over, right?
Right.
So is at this point, maybe I'm a little bit behind on my lore and my canon. What is going on with the Delta Quadrant Borg? Are they still even a thing? Is there more Borg out there on the other side of the galaxy? Remember the Borg Queen in the second season was kind of like cut off from everyone.
Yeah, so I think that this is the remnants of that.
Right.
Because she was talking about how she was like out on the edges of space and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
But Jack found her. She was able to, send him directions to get a warp term, whatever.
Yeah, conduit
to her.
Right.
So then, from there, then they jump back to Earth.
Right. Which one thing I'm wondering is, are these formal, like, okay, so you see all the ships shooting out their torpedoes. Are these photon torpedoes or quantum torpedoes?
I don't know.
They never specified, did they?
No.
Did quantum torpedoes just full on replace photon torpedoes, or were they just a flash in the pan fad, you know?
Right,
Who
right.
knows? We need answers. What do you think about the beamable transporters thing?
I thought that was
portable
cool.
beam me up.
Yeah, I mean it's apparently been a thing before.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. But my question about it was that they shot him and then they beamed him to the transporter room. How come they just didn't keep him in the pattern buffer?
Very, very good question. That does make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Well, we have Riker, Worf, and Picard deciding to go into the cube. You know, and of course, who wants to go but Data? But they're like, no, Data, you got to stay on the ship.
Right. It was touching that everybody wanted to go with Picard. And Picard's last message to the crew on the bridge was very touching. You didn't really know if he was going to come back, did you?
No, you didn't, and it would have been totally plausible for them just to do a final farewell to his character. But we'll see. It doesn't quite work out like that, does it?
No, and neither does Worf's threesome. I'll make it a threesome, okay?
When they get down to the cube, they find basically that it's mostly dead Borg, and that they're all seem to be getting consumed.
Right. Yeah. So she's basically cannibalized all the Borg on the ship to maintain herself.
You don't keep the doors open if you want the wolves out.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And we do get a really good look at the Borg Queen this time, don't we?
Yeah.
Very H.R. Geiger, maybe meets Todd McFarlane on this one.
Yeah. It was interesting.
So I guess the whole idea is that she's just being like fused together by pieces of, or regurgitated through feeding off of the dead drones.
Yeah. And there were lots of drones on there. So
yep.
I guess she'd been out there a while. Since Janeway did her thing, I guess.
Right, or so we're not. So where in this whole timeline does the stuff that happened with the Borg in season 2, though? Remember with
the Borg Dorati?
Yes.
Those are separate Borg from a different universe.
Okay, so those don't count.
No.
Okay, so we're back to the main Borg from the main universe.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. And they make a big point to talk about the new generation of the Borg, which I guess are, more biotech related than cyber or bionic.
Yeah. It's what did they say? It's not it's evolution.
Yeah, not assimilation.
Right.
Evolution. But we had a great battle scene with Borg versus the Worf versus the Borg.
Yes. Where he's using his curliff and he's getting shot, and who knew he had a phaser all the time?
Right. It's great. It's great to see Borg Worf in one final battle.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have like a big shootout in space with the Borg firing on the Enterprise D.
Yep.
And badass Beverly on tactical. Great to see another shout out to her new character depth.
Yeah, to her new skills in tactical, being able to manually do all of that.
Oh yeah, she doesn't just heal anymore. She hurts now too.
Well, it's she's a different Beverly.
It's a dog-eat-dog quadrant out there.
Yes, yeah.
Got to protect your baby from the changelings.
That's right.
Or whatever. All right. Okay, so what do you think about the scene where Data pilots the Enterprise D through the cube?
I thought it was pretty neat. It was kind of reminiscent of the old Star Wars game.
Yes.
Where they go over those pylons and under and stuff like that.
I was thinking it felt like a old Universal Studios ride where like the seats moved with you or something, like the old Back to the Future ride or something like that. I could definitely have seen it like that. I could almost feel my seats moving.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be real here. Like, I know the cubes are huge, but the Enterprise D is still gigantic. Like, it's hard to imagine that huge behemoth of a ship from my childhood maneuvering like that through corridors. But I guess it was Cool.
I mean, because if you looked at the cube in relation to the eye of Jupiter, which is huge, you know, yeah, I guess it would fit in there.
Yeah, cubes are titanic in
Yeah.
their scope. Well, one thing that is also titanic in its scope was that goofy face that Data was making as he was having fun sneaking it through the Borg cube.
Yeah, it was funny that, like, Troy, kept picking up on Data's feelings. At first she was like, oh, I feel anger, I feel blah. Then she was like, I feel joy, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and like you said, Space Dock did last a while, but it eventually succumbed to the combined might of the fleet.
Yeah, it did.
Riker and Worf, they go after they like destroy the Borg, end up taking them out with some phasers. They decide no man gets left behind, and they go after Picard.
Yeah.
And so the next scene, I wasn't a huge fan of, honestly. I what in terms of just one thing specifically, I didn't really like how he just grabs a tube out of Jack and then sticks it in his face. What's up with that?
I mean, he, had to get assimilated.
Is that really? I don't know. Just strikes me as a little odd. What'd you think about the depiction of the Borg hive mind as like some big green glowing void?
I guess it was okay. I mean, because like because it was kind of similar to when Data and Lore were talking to each other.
Right.
So it was kind of like because they were like their own little collective, a mini collective, of two, and it was all right.
Well, Picard bears his heart to Jack in there, and they kind of have a come to Jesus of sorts.
Yeah, he would want to, he was like, oh, well, if you don't want to leave, then I'll stay with you. But I thought it was interesting that, I guess all his life, Jack's been moving from place to place, and, he finally felt a connection, he felt that he had been different, and he was like, kind of digging the whole, like, collective thing.
He was. No pain, no loneliness, no sadness. It's a utopia of sorts.
Yeah, he was like in a euphoria.
Yes, and that's an interesting way to depict the state of being in the collective, because it's usually we see the horror of what it takes to become the part of the collective. You don't see as much of like people are actually happy being part of something bigger than themselves.
Right.
That's definitely an interesting idea that I would have liked to see fleshed out a little bit more. They did it seemed almost a little too easy, even though great acting on Patrick Stewart's part definitely drove home the emotion that he was trying to convey. It's still a little bit more back and forth, maybe a little bit more of the euphoria part would have been great to see.
Yeah.
So the whole idea behind them taking the Enterprise D inside this cube was there's this part of the thing that's sending out the signal, right?
Right.
And that's the thing, like, meanwhile, Space Dock has fallen. All the ships are targeting all the major cities on Earth. We gotta destroy this thing or Earth's gonna be taken out.
Yeah.
This is what's sending the signal to the fleet. We gotta take it out. Oh, it's part of the Borg cube substructure. We can't take it out without taking out the entire cube with us inside of it. It's a lot of hemming and hawing.
Yeah, it was, but I mean, it was to be expected.
And like they finally decide they got to take out the cube. So and they do pretty relatively easy. I mean, maybe this is supposed to be the Borg that's kind of on the back foot, and they don't have a lot of defenses and stuff. But you'd think that something would have tried to stop them.
Well, that one Borg tried.
Right.
The one that went after Worf. But like, I guess she had been out there for a while, and before Jack showed up, I mean,
she had nothing, I guess.
Right? Because she said, that they were like a collective of two there for a minute,
yes.
So she was down to like, bare bones.
Absolutely, that's a good point. Well, when the Enterprise swings in to finally scoop them up before the whole thing goes kaput, you get it. It's interesting seeing the Enterprise D actually maneuver around. Because I'm so used to like the 80s and early 90s when it was just a model. Sometimes it would move a little bit. It wouldn't maneuver around.
Right.
And then like now we're seeing that old 80s model like fly around and swoop around and on top of them, and
Yeah, I mean, like Deanna was like driving the crap out of that thing.
yeah,
It
she
like
was
slid in, it's like
like Tokyo Drift.
yeah, like
Yeah, they Tokyo drifted it right above Riker and Picard and Worf, and they beamed him up. Jack unplugs. He goes up with him too. Just something about the emotion Picard laid on him. He said, "Fuck the collective." Let's unplug and go with old pops.
Yeah, after he said, "Well, I'll stay here with you."
and it looks like that's enough to basically solve the day. Which once again, it's satisfying enough, but pretty. It's always lazy storytelling, in my opinion, when you have all we got to do is solve this one thing to destroy, and then all of our problems are solved.
Right.
But this is a TV show. Once again, maybe I'm setting my standards a little too high. Basically all the problems are solved. All the young people are de-assimilated. Admiral Crusher gets a promotion. All their sins are forgiven.
Yeah, I thought that the speech that Seven of Nine gave, like when they realized that the Enterprise was out there and they were gonna try and buy them some time, and they, and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm just a cook," and it's like, all right, what about replicators? Like, how many cooks? Like, what does he really do?
Right, exactly. Maybe they just have him on staff to add a little bit of flair. He comes up with the ideas, and
right.
Stuff like that.
But he's like a former pilot now, cook. And so after he pulled this off, is he gonna go back to being a cook?
I wonder if he's gonna be in the spinoff.
I don't know.
There's been talk of a spinoff if you haven't heard, and it seems like it's very plausible because Seven gets her promotion. We get another Tuvok cameo where she gets promoted to captain, and definitely looks like they're primed to just shoot her off and do her own thing.
Yeah, hashtag Star Trek Legacy.
Well, let's see it happen.
Yeah.
I did think that backing up a little bit, once they had Jack on the Enterprise D's bridge, I thought he looked a lot like, without the face piece, I thought he looked a lot like Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, there was that. And then the other thing, like when he was plugged in and he was like, Vox and stuff like that, he had awesome hair. His hair kind of like dipped down and did this little thing, like little curly Q thing. And I'm like, do they have like Borg hairstylists?
They do. I think maybe it's like the nano probes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Are like the nanites are just keeping your hair with the perfect amount of volume. So everyone gets a pardon. Seven gets promoted. Rafi's family and friends finally get to learn what a valuable asset she's been to the whole Starfleet as a whole.
Yeah, somebody leaked that to him.
I wonder who that could have been.
Yeah.
Data, he decides to continue his therapy. Too much to Troy's chagrin.
Right. You notice that, like, that last thing with her and Data, and she's, like, looking at vacation spots and stuff like that while through therapy and stuff like that. The outfit that she was wearing was, like, this blue kind of asymmetrical thing that kind of reminded me of her old uniform.
Very much a callback to that, absolutely. And, a lot of times, in a lot of ways, this felt like the Return of the King for Star Trek, and I didn't make this up, but I think that in one of the ways it was most like Return of the King for Star Trek is that the Return of the King had a lot of endings to it, and so did this.
It did, but they were all rewarding, I thought.
Yes.
In their own way. I mean, because, it would have been hard to wrap it up with, like, one big ending, but this way we got to tie up some loose ends.
Absolutely. I think what made it hard about Return of the King for some people is the fact it was a 4-hour movie that, and then with a lot of endings. But, this a little bit more manageable, a lot more manageable. We get 1 year later where they finally do a tearful goodbye to the Enterprise D.
Yes. Yeah, well, they shut it down, leave it at the museum, and walk off. I mean, that was it was hearing Major Barrett's voice, at the end, it was a great homage.
Absolutely. And we get to see the space dock again. Looks like they rebuilt that pretty quick.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, all right, so it didn't take them long at all to rebuild that.
No, no, they were post haste, right?
Yeah.
Jack says he's only getting into Starfleet due to nepotism. That was a
Yeah.
nice touch.
Yeah, but I mean, he was on that accelerated course.
Absolutely. Can't underestimate the power of a name.
Right, with two, both parents as admirals.
Yeah, Crusher hyphen Picard.
Yeah.
And speaking of names, we have the Titan being rechristened as the Enterprise G.
What did you feel? How did you feel about that?
Mixed. Because, I mean, I don't think the Titan needed it.
No, I mean, because the Titan did. I mean, it had played its own role in saving Earth, and I thought that it should be remembered as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And it should be like one of those, ships that is all. There's always a Titan in the fleet, for its heroic, deeds in saving Earth.
Yeah. They kind of
So
brushed that. They did kind of brush that aside. And another thing, the Enterprise F, I realized it was just in like one episode as one of the bitch ships that got commandeered by the Borg, but why can't it have its own thing?
well, the F was going to be early retired anyway. Remember?
Mm, good
Because
point.
they had already said that that the F was going to be fast tracked to be retired. I don't know why, but it was on its way out. But I don't. I kind of feel bad about the Titan.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. You know. But regardless of what we name it, Rose by any other name, Rafi is still back with Seven. Maybe we'll see a spinoff.
Right? Yeah.
We talked about this just a second ago. Star Trek Legacy is very possibly a thing, guys. So just
Yeah.
keep your fingers crossed.
And if you want that to happen, there is a petition at change.org for Paramount to get to greenlight Star Trek Legacy.
Yeah, guys, remember to check that out.
I'll put a link
Change.org.
in the description.
Please do. And, as we finally wind down this final episode of this final season of Picard, we have an epic quote by Picard, a Shakespeare quote.
Yes, from Julius Caesar.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is exactly what we needed, was just one last ounce of epicness from Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, well, it was drive-by poetic, whatever 7 to 9 said. Yeah.
And we close out the episode with Picard winning in poker once again.
Yeah, that was cool, the poker scene, with them just playing and having fun. It was just good to watch them all.
Right, a great callback to the original Next Generation.
Yeah, because, when's the next time, if ever, we will all see them together again like that?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Really. It shudders to think. And, just as we're about to close out this final episode of Picard, we do have an after credit scene.
Yes.
That I didn't even notice the first time around, not till my rewatch, that I know that there was this after credits sequence.
Yeah, the trial never ends.
Indeed. We get a little bit of cue. So this is definitely leaving things wide open for a future season.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
John
if not-
Delancey's back.
If not for a Picard of, Star Trek Legacy or something else.
Yeah.
All right, fingers crossed. So what'd you think about this episode? What'd you think about this season?
I thought the season was good. I liked it. I mean, it took a long time to actually figure out who the main villains were, and the whole Vatican thing that was just weird, and they never explained how the changelings and the Borg got together. I mean, especially if the Borg queen was like stuck out in the middle of nowhere. How did she hook up with the changelings?
Yeah, there are some questions left unanswered. I think overall it's probably the best season so far, and it was really good. Not perfect by any means, but really good. And definitely the lack of connective tissue between the Borg and the Changelings is a gripe. And some of the other arguably lazy storytelling devices are a gripe. But everything was satisfying. A lot of fan service, maybe too much. But overall, a lot of love was put into this, and you could tell.
Yeah, I mean, it all went back to the power of love, and that's how they won, through the power of love. It was like, okay, Jack, if you're not gonna leave, then I'll stay here with you, and that won him over.
Right. And, there was a lot of characters stepping out of their comfort zones, a lot of old characters and fresh new dynamics, fresh new, situations, just things you never saw them in before, and recontextualizing and shining a new light on these old characters. And I appreciated that a lot about this series.
Yeah, there was that. It was just the whole changeling thing. It just kind of threw me.
Well, I thought the whole changeling thing was great, but the way that it kind of did that abrupt left turn at the end and it being the Borg makes it feel disjointed, almost like those last two episodes are part of a different series altogether.
Right.
Is that what you mean? Yeah, and I agree with that. I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more done to make it a little bit more cohesive, because it definitely does feel like two different series.
Right.
But overall, I liked it a lot. I feel like the acting was top notch. The special effects were good. The character designs and ship designs were great.
Most definitely.
The suspense and the intrigue of the changeling part of the storyline was good. Possibly my favorite episode could have been the one with Ro Laren. That was a really good one. There was a couple other ones that might be contenders too. I'll have to do another rewatch of the whole series to really be able to ferret out which one I think is the best episode. But there's some strong ones.
Yeah, the Rolaren storyline. It was good to see that. Finally get some closure, but it was sad to see her come back and be a boss and then die in the same episode.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, okay, so they fridged her. After all these years.
That is a shame.
Yeah.
That is a shame. I didn't even think about it in that context, but you're not wrong at all.
I mean, and the same went for like what was the chick who was the admiral on the D.
Yeah.
Yeah, that chick.
Yeah.
On the F.
Shelby.
Yeah, Admiral Shelby.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of potential there that was squandered.
Yeah,
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all in all, I feel like it was good, even though the Borg thing at the end was a little rushed, and some of the storytelling devices kind of took me out of it. But overall, good, and I appreciate what they were trying to do. And I would definitely give this season 2 thumbs up.
Most definitely. 2 thumbs up, and I'd highly recommend it.
So, this may be the end of Star Trek Picard, but it's not the end of the Legends of Lore broadcast.
That's right.
We're going to have a lot more content coming up for you soon. I believe our next topic of discussion will be the new Guardians of the Galaxy series. Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my favorite Marvel franchises, Marvel cinematic franchises, and definitely a comic book that I was into. I was into the original Guardians of the Galaxy in their series from the early 90s, and then got into the more modern iteration of the Guardians of the Galaxy in like the I guess the mid 2000 teens or something like that. So it was always a franchise I really liked. I'm looking forward to seeing that movie come out. I believe it is being released on the 5th of May.
Okay.
So just keep your eyes out to our channel. Like, follow, and subscribe so you can make sure to get a notification when that is coming out.
Yeah, make sure that you subscribe and like. And we look forward to being with you guys on the next episode.
Yeah, see you then.
See you then.
Ciao.
Ciao. Peace.